Have you ever imagined that some of America's most lively and iconic cities could soon become places everyone is desperate to leave? It feels unthinkable, but for many cities across the US, this is quickly becoming reality. The very places that were once filled with life and opportunity are now being hit by challenges so overwhelming, be it economic collapse, rampant crime, or even environmental threats, that residents are left with no choice but to move away. The tough truth is, many of these cities are losing their vibrancy, and the exodus is already underway. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the top 10 cities in America that are on the verge of losing their people by 2025. Each city has its own story of decline, from sinking economies to unsafe streets, and yet, beneath all the struggle, there's a sense of resilience too. Let's dive in and understand why these once thriving places are now at risk of being left behind. 10. Oakland, California. Sitting just across the bay from San Francisco, Oakland is home to over 420,000 people. Once a thriving commercial hub, the city's been through a lot of changes. Now, living in Oakland comes with a hefty price tag. It's actually one of the most expensive cities in the country, about 39% pricier than the national average. And if you're thinking of moving there, brace yourself for some harsh realities. Crime is a big problem. The chances of becoming a victim are surprisingly high. 1 in 12 for violent crimes and 1 in 15 for property-related incidents. If you're looking for safer areas, you might want to steer clear of places like Fitchburg, Eastmont, and Hoover Foster, where crime rates are through the roof. Last year alone, over 6,000 crimes were reported in these neighborhoods. Oakland may have its charm, but for many, the risk of crime makes it a tough place to call home. 9. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, let's talk about Baton Rouge, the capital of Louisiana. With about 225,000 people living here, the city has more downsides than upsides. For starters, it's not the most exciting place to be. There aren't a lot of social activities like concerts or sports, so residents often leave simply out of boredom. But that's not the only problem. Baton Rouge is a city divided, both socially and racially, and tensions run high. Racism is deeply rooted, and crime, well, it's through the roof. The crime rate here is a staggering 200% higher than the national average. Roughly 7,000 crimes happen per 100,000 people every year, making it feel more like a dangerous neighborhood than a capital city. If you're curious about the most dangerous spots, Brooktown, Victoria, and Greenville Edition are places to avoid. On top of that, Baton Rouge's weather doesn't make things any easier. The city deals with sweltering heat and is no stranger to hurricanes. Back in 2016, nearly every part of the city was hit by severe flooding due to poor drainage. It's a tough place to live, no doubt about it. 8. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit. Known for its huge role in the auto industry, this city has had a rough go of it over the years. With about 670,000 people, Detroit's been facing economic challenges for quite some time. While it's cheaper to live here compared to other major cities, the trade-off is high crime rates and unemployment. Detroit actually has one of the highest violent crime rates in the country. The murder rate alone is 49.7 per 100,000 people, which is downright frightening. Areas like Brightmoor, Petoskey, Ego, and Riverdale are particularly dangerous. Despite efforts to breathe new life into Detroit, many parts of the city are still full of abandoned buildings and not so great public services. The winters are tough too. If you've never experienced a Detroit winter, let me tell you, it's brutal. But it's not all doom and gloom. The city's downtown area has been getting a facelift with revitalization projects, and there are community-driven efforts to reduce crime and make the city a better place to live. It's a long road ahead, but Detroit's still fighting to turn things around. 7. Youngstown, Ohio. Youngstown might not be a huge city, but it's got a big story of struggle. With a population of around 58,300, this Ohio town has seen better days. Back in its prime, it was all about the steel industry. But when the steel mills shut down, it sent the city into a downward spiral. Many people left, hoping to find better opportunities elsewhere. And those who stayed? Well, they're facing a lot of challenges, including high crime rates and a struggling economy. The north side of Youngstown is especially known for illegal activity, and there's a good chance you could become a crime victim here. In fact, the odds are about 1 in 20. But despite these issues, there's a silver lining for retirees. Youngstown has actually been named one of the top 10 places to retire in the U.S., thanks to its location between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. It's a good option for seniors looking to stay close to family while enjoying a quieter, more affordable lifestyle. 6. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is Missouri's largest city, sitting at the meeting point of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. It's got a rich history, but today it's not the thriving metropolis it once was. In 1950, the population peaked at over 850,000, but now it's down to about 272,000. The decline of the railroad industry hit the city hard, and many people moved away in search of work. What's left is a city grappling with high crime rates and some pretty conservative social attitudes. Last year, St. Louis saw 8,000 crimes per 100,000 people, with a particularly high rate of property crimes. And if you're worried about violent crime, the odds are about 1 in 40 that you could become a victim. Yet, despite all the challenges, St. Louis is still culturally rich. It's home to iconic landmarks like the Gateway Arch, Forest Park, and a thriving art scene. There are also ongoing efforts to turn things around, with community initiatives aiming to improve safety and quality of life. But for now, it remains a city on edge, struggling to reclaim its former glory. 5. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis might be famous for its music, but it's also known for its struggles. With a population of about 630,000, the city has a deep cultural legacy, being home to landmarks like Graceland and Beale Street. But beyond its musical roots, Memphis is facing some tough times. The crime rate here is sky high, sitting at 320% above the national average. Just last year, over 15,000 violent crimes were reported, making it one of the most dangerous cities in America. A lot of people in Memphis just don't feel safe anymore, which has led many to pack up and move to safer areas. And it's not just crime that's a problem. The city also has issues with cleanliness. Trash piles up on the streets, showing that the municipal services might not be keeping up with the city's needs. Despite all of this, there's still a lot of heart in Memphis. The city continues to draw tourists who want to experience its rich history and vibrant music scene. Plus, there are efforts underway to tackle crime and restore its reputation, but it's clear that the road to recovery won't be easy. 4. Cleveland, Ohio. Once a booming industrial powerhouse, Cleveland has taken quite the hit over the years. Back in the mid-20th century, it was home to nearly 1 million people, but now the population has dwindled to around 351,000. The decline of manufacturing was a major blow to the city, causing massive job losses and widespread home foreclosures. In 2022 alone, more than 2,500 residents packed up and left. High crime and poverty still plague many neighborhoods, making it tough for Cleveland to shake off its troubled reputation. Last year, the city reported almost 6,000 crimes, well above the national average. While areas like Tremont and Ohio City are seeing some revitalization efforts, Cleveland's challenges run deep. The city has a poverty rate of 31%, and many of the skills that residents once relied on for work aren't in demand anymore, leaving them struggling to adapt to a more service-based economy. Cleveland's once thriving industries are now a shadow of what they used to be, and without significant changes, it's hard to imagine the city reclaiming its former glory. 3. Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, known for being right next to Niagara Falls and its friendly residents, has a lot going for it, especially when it comes to affordability. Living here is about 30% cheaper than in New York City, making it an attractive place for those looking to stretch their dollars. But like other cities on this list, Buffalo has some serious problems. The crime rate is 90% higher than the national average, and residents face a 1 in 20 chance of becoming a victim. Last year, the city saw about 70 homicides, which translates to roughly 25 per 100,000 people. What's even more concerning is that around 60,000 people leave Buffalo each month, tired of the ongoing issues. The city's decline started back in the mid-20th century when industries began shutting down, forcing people to look for jobs elsewhere. By 2010, Buffalo had lost nearly half of its peak population. Now, projections show that the city could lose another quarter of its population by 2100. On top of that, Buffalo faces environmental challenges, like rising sea levels and sinking land, which could result in significant flooding by 2050 if nothing is done. Even though Buffalo has a strong community spirit and a rich cultural history, its future looks uncertain unless serious investments are made to turn things around. 2. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Known for its beautiful landscapes and sunny weather, Albuquerque has its own unique charm. But it also has a darker side, with crime rates that are 175% above the national average. With a population of over 500,000, residents face a 1 in 40 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Property crimes and violent incidents are so common that many people feel unsafe in their own neighborhoods. To add to the frustration, the city's traffic problems and inadequate public transportation system make getting around even more stressful. Albuquerque's population has been on a slow decline, with about 0.34% of residents leaving each year. And it's not just crime that's a concern. About 20% of the city's population lives below the poverty line, adding to the overall sense of struggle. Despite these challenges, Albuquerque still has a lot to offer, from its rich history to its 310 days of sunshine each year. The city's economy is supported by tech and research industries, including Sandia National Laboratories. But with flat population growth and ongoing crime issues, Albuquerque's future looks rocky unless changes are made to address these problems head-on. 1. Little Rock, Arkansas. Last on our list is Little Rock, the capital of Arkansas. With over 200,000 residents, it's got that small-town charm, but it also faces some big challenges. For one, poverty is a huge issue. Many families here can't even afford basic necessities like food, which is heartbreaking in a country as wealthy as the United States. On top of that, Little Rock is one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S., with a crime rate that's 200% higher than the national average. Living in Little Rock means dealing with a combination of economic hardship and high crime, making it a tough place to raise a family or build a future. And while it might not face the same environmental risks as coastal cities, Little Rock isn't entirely immune to the impacts of climate change. The city's future will depend on how well it adapts to these challenges and works to create a safer, more stable environment for its residents. As we close our look at these 10 cities on the brink of an exodus, it's impossible not to feel the weight of what's happening. Whether it's economic struggles, rising crime, or environmental threats, each of these cities is facing a tough fight to survive. By bringing attention to these challenges, we can only hope that action is taken to protect the communities and histories that make these places unique. If this video made you think, drop a comment below, turn on your notifications, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care!